came, but he then found himself being tossed over the side of the boat, and then found himself, literally the word says, at the foot of the mountains. In this moment, the word is simply trying to tell you that when you're running from your fears, when your focus is behind you, you far too often find yourself at rock bottom. Is there anybody in here this morning that feels like they're literally at the foot of their mountain? You say, I can't get no lower than this. I've tried everything that I thought was going to work, but now I feel like I'm just in a stuck between a rock and a hard place. There's nothing left for me. In this moment, that's where Jonah found himself. Jonah was at his lowest point. He'd taken on too many losses, and in that moment, he had to find himself returning to something that he knew at the beginning of Jonah chapter 1. I told you at the beginning of Jonah chapter 1, it presupposes that Jonah has a relationship with God because he hears God's voice and he knows that God is calling him. I just dropped by this morning to tell you, you need to go back and reclaim the voice of God that was calling you in the beginning. Go back to the voice of God that you heard when you were a child trying to find your way from one place to another. Go back and reclaim the voice of God that told you you were going to be prepared for this moment. Go back and reclaim the voice of God that tells you you'll be okay in this situation even though it seems like there's no way to turn. The voice of God at that moment requires something of you, though. If you read through the narrative, and I don't have time to read through it all with you at the moment, but what I want you to know is that Jonah's prayer is not a woe is me prayer. Jonah's prayer is not a prayer that says, God, if you would just, God, I don't know how I got. It's a prayer of thanksgiving. It's a prayer that Jonah prays that says, God, I recognize where I am, and I recognize your power. And I recognize that I'm in this place because I was running from my fears. But God, even in my situation, I declare victory.